Lenin was born in Simbirsk on April 10th, 1870. His birth name was Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov. His parents were Maria Alexandrovna Ulyanov and Lilia Nikolaevich Ulyanov. He was baptized on the 28th of April. Lenin was born into a privileged life due to his father's work. His father was a high official of the educational system around the area he lived in. Lenin was known to be a good swimmer and ice skater. He had received a gold medal while graduating from the Simbirsk Men's Gymnasium. When Lenin was 16, his father had died of a brain hemorrhage, and the following year his brother was executed. He was hanged for attempting an assassination against Tsar Alexander III. The death of his brother is what sparked his interest into a political revolutionist and radical thinker. Thus began the beginning of the revolutionary leader. Lenin moved to St. Petersburg in 1893 and practiced law. During the time there, he began to develop a Marxist underground movement. He grouped members in which he met his wife, who he married in 1898. He traveled to Switzerland to meet the other Social Democrats in 1895. During this time, he met Georgy Plekhanov. This is where the general split of Bolsheviks and Mensheviks had been created. When Lenin returned to Russia, he carried around illegal pamphlets to start revolutionary paper. On the eve of its publication, he was arrested and exiled to Siberia. When he finished his term, he traveled abroad and was sent from Germany to Russia in an attempt to restore power in Russia and to revolutionize. He was successful, and the Tsar was toppled, leading Lenin to power.
After the Red Guards took over the Winter Palace, the Bolsheviks established a new government. As chairman of the Council of the People's Commissars of the Soviet Union, Lenin was in charge of this government. Immediately after, Lenin started making changes. He gave farmland to the peasants and took control of the factories to the workers. He also started negotiating with Germany. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk got Russia out of the war, but gave huge amounts of land to Germany. Soon after, Lenin made the Cheka, a secret service that put down any threats to the new government under Lenin. They often used censorship and propaganda. Lenin was not so lucky when a revolutionary named Fanya Koplin shot at him. He was hit twice, once in the arm and once in the neck and jaw. In response to this, the Bolsheviks told the Cheka to start a Red Terror. Executions of civil servants, czarist ministers, and white guards were sanctioned by Lenin. Anti-Bolsheviks were killed, tortured, or imprisoned. The harsh treatment triggered the rise of the White Army and the start of the Civil War. Leon Trotsky led the Red Army, and under his leadership, the Red Army eventually won. The Civil War was 3 years long and saw the deaths of more than 15 million Russians. The war and the resulting famine left Russia in ruins. Because of this, Lenin launched his new economic policy. This was a version of capitalism. Lenin allowed the peasants to buy and sell their extra goods. He also let some small businesses remain under private ownership. This helped Russia recover. Lenin also made political changes. He moved the capital from Petrograd to Moscow. He renamed the Bolshevik Party the Communist Party. This came from Karl Marx. Lenin's government didn't follow Marx's ideas, however, as the Communist Party held all the power.
Vladimir Lenin wrote, "Uneven economic and political development is an absolute law of capitalism. Hence the victory of socialism is possible, first in several or even in one capitalist country taken separately. The victorious proletariat of that country, having expiated the capitalists and organized its own socialist production, would stand up against the rest of the world, the capitalist world." Lenin was a socialist and did not believe in capitalism. He took belief in the fact that capitalism could be overthrown by a working-class revolution led by a dictatorship of the proletariat, an elite force to guide the revolutionary process. Though he lobbied for socialized healthcare, emancipation of women, and education of Russia's illiterate, he also eliminated all factions and parties whose views contradicted his own. He led through oppression and terror. He dictated everything from where people lived to what they thought and how they lived their lives. Lenin originally wanted to make a class-free society, but instead created a country dominated by power, violence, and force.
Lenin died after a long and extended illness. He had suffered from continuous strokes, and it was rumored that he may have died from syphilis. He died in Gorky, a village 20 miles from Moscow. He died an hour before 7 in the evening on the 21st of January, 1924. His death had a huge effect on the nation. Lenin's fall of power initially began on May 25, 1922. He suffered a massive stroke which left him paralyzed in parts of his right side of his body and temporarily left him lame. Since he could not exercise his governmental powers, he left Stalin, Zinoviev, and Kamenev to run the country during his absence. On December 15, 1923, Lenin suffered from another serious stroke. Stalin finally took this opportunity to isolate Lenin from all governmental decisions and power. On March of 1923, Lenin had his third stroke. It permanently cost him his ability to talk or even walk. After this, there was no doubt that he would never return to power.